Well, honey, let me tell you what's going on in the world today, because Americans are taking to the streets in protests across the country over disturbing, awful, tragic, horrendous video of an ICE agent in Minneapolis shooting and killing an American citizen and mom of 3 children, Renee Nicole Macklin. The mayor, Good is the last name, sorry.
Right.
The city's mayor is lashing out after Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem gave her version of what went down. Take a look.
It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is to ICE. Get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Now, you know, a lot of people were very annoyed that he used the F-bomb.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But,
that's
you know,
the part they're annoyed
that's
with?
the part they're annoyed
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Yes. And, you know, this is not the first time Kristi Noem has lied to the American people. She's continuously repeated the lie that ICE didn't sweep up U.S. citizens in their raids. She lied about whether military vets were deported. And in December, an Illinois congresswoman called out Noem for lying to Congress on the order and continuously violating court orders. So when you saw this video, yes, she is.
Well, she
a
also
liar.
said that this law enforcement agent was following training.
Yeah.
It is basic law enforcement training to not step in front of a vehicle that can move, because it creates an opportunity for that vehicle to become a death threat and therefore unnecessary shootings like this. So although we don't know who this agent is or many details about him, we do know there was an increased goal last year to double the amount of ICE agents.
Yeah.
And to hit that number, what they did was they removed all age requirements and cut the training program to less than half of what it had been, while also recruiting people with using visuals. I think we have a couple here that are warlike images, like with Uncle Sam, and also references to Halo, which is a single shooter war game that talks about Destroy the Flood, which is kind of presuming that all of these immigrants are parasitic alien enemies. So it also is recruiting potentially the wrong type of people to come and be undertrained to do this job. So it's a really sad day to know a woman just lost her life and she had children, and you know, we'll still see all the other things that are let out, but if your heart doesn't hurt, you're in the wrong place right now.
Well, and that was a key point to me that you said, in America, the punishment for evading law enforcement in a vehicle or on foot is not death. It simply is not. That is not how our system works. It's not how it should. DOJ has specific guidelines that specifically say firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. DHS's are a bit more nuanced, but it talks about de-escalation. They're supposed to get de-escalation training in these situations. But what was most disturbing to me was this. I'm largely off of social media other than Instagram to look at dogs and pregnancy things. But I got on Twitter yesterday, and within minutes of this video being published, or the various videos, it felt like there was such a mad dash to confirm one's partisan opinion. I saw people on the right just repeatedly putting out the same video that I saw something very different with my own eyes, but it needed to fit their partisan narrative. It needed to back the jersey that they wear. And when did we become a country that a woman my age and a mother of 3 is killed? The facts will play out. We may learn more, but is killed, and our first thought is, how do I make this a win for the party I vote with? I find it sickening the way this should play out. They should have frozen the seam. They should have immediately administered any sort of life-saving medical care to this woman.
There was a doctor there that offered help, and they denied that doctor the ability to help that woman.
Very disturbing video there. And then there should be a full-blown investigation. What I thought was noteworthy is Tom Homan, who is a hardliner on immigration, actually said on air on CBS, he said there should be an investigation. We should let the facts play out. but then hours later, he seemed to walk it back. Jumping to domestic terrorism, jumping to saying that multiple people were threatened, where that's not what I saw in the video.
No.
That is not how it should happen, and it makes this a tinderbox in a moment that it's not right.
For the panel here, and are we in the middle of fascist America? Because in
I told you that yesterday.
just this last week, I'm just going to give you a summary of what we've been through. 1 week, Pete Hegseth started an illegal war for oil in Venezuela.
Right.
Stephen Miller threatened a military takeover of Greenland. RFK Jr. slashed childhood vaccine recommendations. And ICE shot and killed a United States citizen in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That sort of adds up to me like a dictatorship in the making. That
We're
we are
in it,
now
baby.
in it. We are in
Yes.
it now. And American people, I think, have to wake up to this a little bit more than we are. We try very hard to give you what we know. But people have to start reading and watching and paying attention a little bit more than we have. Because you can lose it, you know? And these ICE agents, by the way, they get a $50,000 bonus when they sign up. They're highly motivated people who probably don't have much going on.
Well, I think Sarah's right in the sense that they cut training for ICE agents in half. It used to be about 13 weeks, and now it's 6 weeks. And so, you know, when I looked at the video from several different angles, which is what lawyers are trained to do, I saw an unlawful killing. I think that's very clear. And I think we need to be at the point in this country that we call a thing a thing and stop listening to propaganda and being Orwellian in terms of not believing what your eyes are seeing. You must believe what your eyes see. Right?
People are taking to this. This is what
they are believing
for me.
it
This
now,
is what is really gives me great hope. People are starting to recognize from wherever they voted from, that something is terribly wrong.
I agree.
And it makes me
Feel better?
feel like I can take a breath, because for a long time it felt like that people just thought we were, you know, just talking to waste air. But people are seeing things because everyone is affected by this. That young lady could have been anybody in this audience.
Well, that's...
It doesn't matter what, forget color, forget it. It could have been anybody. And if they can do this to her, they can do it to you too.
That's
And,
right.
but can I make this one point, though? Because I
Yes.
think it's important for the people to understand what the law is here. In 1985, the Supreme Court in Tennessee versus Garner made it very clear that you cannot use deadly force to shoot at a moving vehicle with an unarmed person in it. That is the law of the land, or it was when I went to law school.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing I think you mentioned about DOJ policies, you cannot, DOJ's own use of force policy prohibits shooting at a moving car unless there is no other reasonable means of defense. Everyone should look at that video and understand that when that woman went in reverse and then moved away from the officers.
Say it again.
She went in reverse and then moved to the right, away from the officers. All that officer needed to do was move out of the way. That is, under DOJ's own use of force policy, another reasonable means of defense.
Well, and by stepping in front of the vehicle, they already made that a likely ending.
And rather than doing that and stepping in front of the vehicle, he shot 3 times and then did not give aid. So that legally, under Supreme Court precedent, is an unlawful killing, okay? Unlawful.
And Whoopi, when you say that you're reassured because people are hearing it, people are hitting the streets and we're watching the temperature rise even further. So I would say it's also really important to be careful. Although we have the right to protest, the right to stand up, you might be against people that aren't trained properly. So be careful, because it's not worth the win if you lose a life.
Oh, and also...
may I also just note, we at this table condemned it when there were threats against ICE officers and when there was a shooting against ICE officers. We need to be consistent here. This is not something that should have happened, and that people want to separate and put into partisan corners is just wrong.
And stop gaslighting us. We can see what happened.
Just one last thing, sorry. In the last 4 months alone, ICE officers have fired on at least 9 people in 5 states and D.C., and in all of the individuals targeted in those shootings were in vehicles, and they have claimed self-defense. No one has been charged. So when you are out there peacefully protesting, which is your right under the Constitution, even if you're in a vehicle, please, please be careful, because this is what's happening in this country right now.
Just know that anything can happen now. and be smart about what you're doing.